Sometimes teams have catchy songs that describe their team. For example, the NFL's got a lot of them, and thanks to Second and 10 PC football, I got to know the fight songs. San Diego's, of course, the San Diego Superchargers, San Diego Chargers, or Buccaners. Go Bucks! Hey, hey, Tampa Bay, we're gonna shine. Or fly, Eagles, fly on the road to victory. Light fight. We are the big football team. We are the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bradshaw and Paul and all the boys through. Go get 'em, Pittsburgh Steelers. Or even Miami Dolphins are the greatest football team. We go from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We fight we think Miami. I'm thinking Super Bowl because we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins #1. But that's not the song. The key song is, well, the Miami Dolphins song, but something similar because we're the Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers #1. Yes, sir. That's with the Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers. Houston Oilers #1. So yeah, this song is about the Houston Oilers, a team that should have been #1, but they had Team Turmoil. Urinating Tree on YouTube has done such a great video on that. I swear by that video every time. Well, let's look at the 1993 Houston Oilers because you know what? That could have saved the city massive headache. So get ready. I said, are you ready? Are you ready for some Cutter What If NFL football? A weekend invasion! Yeah, it's Cutter talking to you live. We got the hits and the misses. So come join me for all the fun. All the rowdy friends come in. It's the weekend, y'all. Are you ready? Yeah, let's do this, baby. Yes. So the Houston Oilers were built in the AFL, the American Football League, the league that tried to destroy the NFL and make competition. Because let's face it, Texas didn't have an NFL team in 1960 when the AFL built up, but they put Dallas in to spite Lamar Hunt because Lamar Hunt put one of the AFL teams in Dallas. But there was another team in Texas, the Houston Oilers. Dallas and Houston were big, but the Houston Oilers had some great plays. 1961, Charlie Hennigan became the first wide receiver in either league to put up 100 plus receptions. He was pretty good. He had the record for a long, long time, 118. Anyway, Charlie Hennigan aside, Houston were good in the AFL. In 1962, they got to the final against the Dallas Texans. Houston got to host the game at Rice Stadium, and that was the game in which Dallas's guy Abner Hayes, the captain, said he would kick to the clock. They wanted the ball in a certain position, certain end of the field. Unfortunately, though, he said kick, and that meant Houston got to choose their possession. The good news for the Texans was that they did win the game in double overtime, so Houston lost. But Houston still poured on. After all, Dallas's AFL team moved to Kansas City to become the Chiefs. The Oilers were pretty good. George Blanda, the old man of football who played football till his late 40s with the Oakland Raiders, he was still a Houston Oilers quarterbacking icon. Unfortunately, Houston, after they joined the NFL from the AFL, were just disastrous. They had back-to-back 1-13 seasons in the early 70s. They were on Monday Night Football, and a fan decided to do the one thing casual. He woke up, saw the camera, and did that. So anyhow, the Oilers sucked, and they had some pathetic coaches and all of that. I can't remember the coach of the Oilers in the 70s, but he actually told the players to uh, stand by their on their helmets with the sidelines tucked under their arm. The malaprop, Bill Peterson, I think it was his name. Nevertheless, Houston got better and better. Bum Phillips helped Houston out. And it helped that Houston got an early draft pick in 1977 to pick Earl the Pearl Campbell from Texas. Campbell was just a running back machine from the University of Texas and went to Love You Blue Houston Oilers. Houston used his running attack in such a way. In 1978, in the playoffs, the Oilers actually didn't play with Earl Campbell in the divisional round and alongside Dan Pastorini. They had to use Rob Carpenter and Gifford Nielsen. And even though Houston lost some key players, even a few wide receivers, they still went to San Diego and beat the Superchargers 17-14, thanks to Ferdinand Perry, the ex CFLer. Stick that where the sun don't shine, America. An ex CFLer helped the Houston Oilers win the title, win the game against San Diego. Houston then would get clocked by Pittsburgh at Three Rivers 34-5. I didn't know you could score 5 points in a game. Nevertheless, Houston built up better. The 78 season was there. 78-79 season was there for the taking. Well, and then 79-80, the season was for the taking. Heck, they even went to Dallas and beat the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day. That's huge. And Earl Campbell ran all over Dallas. Unfortunately, though, Houston would see their dreams be puffed in a puff of smoke in Pittsburgh, in which instant replay could have helped things, as Mike Renfro clearly caught the ball inbounds with 2 feet in. Unfortunately, though, instant replay wasn't around, and the officials called him out of the end zone. That cost Houston dearly, and they could have went to the Super Bowl. You're thinking, okay, that's the Houston Oilers win. Nope, it's not, for obvious reasons. Houston would plod along in the 80s and all that. When all of a sudden Bud Phillips left for New Orleans, took Earl Campbell kind of with him, and this guy by the name of Hugh Campbell was made coach at the Houston Oilers. And guess where Hugh Campbell came from? You guessed it, America, the CFL. Hugh Campbell was a legend in the CFL, winning 5 straight Grey Cup championships for the Edmonton Eskimos. I know you can shit on the Grey Cup all you want if you're American and all that. And like there was only 8 or 9 teams. But yeah, but Edmonton, it's hard to win 3 straight nowadays. Not even Winnipeg could do it. They were supposed to be a dynasty. Nevertheless, Edmonton was good. And their pivot, well, Tom Wilkinson was also their quarterback, but their other pivot came to the NFL. Finally, the NFL was willing to accept a black quarterback. His name? Warren freaking Moon. That's right. Warren Moon was a CFL icon. He was a legend for Washington, the University of Washington, beating Michigan in the 1978 Rose Bowl. But the NFL didn't give him an offer. No team drafted him. So he didn't want to be a defensive player. So he said, I'm going to quarterback somewhere that they'll accept me. And the CFL accepted him. They didn't care if it was black or white. He got 5 straight Grey Cups. That's hard to do. And heck, 1981, they almost choked it. Edmonton was down 20-3 or 20-1 to the Ottawa Rough Riders, and yet they still won 26-23. Yeah, 5 straight is hard to do. So Campbell and Moon were helping Houston out. And it worked. Houston built a team, and then the disaster of the 1993 wildcard game at Rich Stadium against Buffalo. Houston should have had it. They were up 35-3, and Buffalo did not have their starting quarterback. Jim Kelly was hurt. It was Frank Reich. But people forget that Frank Reich led one of the greatest college comebacks of all time when his Maryland Terrapins were down 31-0 to the University of Miami in Miami at the Orange Bowl and still won 42-40. So anyway, Frank Reich doing the job. And even Boomer Esiason, who was actually Reich's teammate at Maryland, said on the NBC studio show in halftime, don't give up on Frank Reich. So Houston did, and they choked it. They had a 35-3 lead. They forced overtime, thankfully, but Buffalo got a pickoff and then a field goal by Steve Christie from Canada. I'd say that. So anyway, yeah, that was that. Of course, the 93 season is what I'm going to be focused on for Houston and how it basically led to the downfall of the Houston Oilers, well, football in Houston, until 2002 when the Texans came around. But that's a different story. So anyway, let's take a look at the 93 Houston Oilers. All right, so the 1993 Houston Oilers. This was the 34th season in Houston history and their 24th in the NFL after merging with the AFL. They said it was the most notorious and turbulent seasons in NFL history, both on and off the field. Before the season began, Bud Adams told the team that unless the Oilers made the Super Bowl, there had to be a massive overhaul because the salary cap was coming to football. Despite their poor start, they actually lost 4 of their first 5 games. The Oilers won their last 11 regular season games to go 12-4, tied for the best record in the NFL with those pesky Buffalo Bills. They were the 2 seed and knew that they would host their first ever divisional round playoff game. Of course, yeah, Houston, I don't remember hosting a conference semifinal. Anyway, the 11-game winning streak was the longest since Miami's undefeated run in 1972. A lot of people thought the Oilers were hot and all that. One of the most heartbreaking seasons of all time. After all, they got bit by the comeback. As I said, Buffalo being down 35-3 and winning the game still. It looked pretty impressive and all that. Of course, the Oilers would collapse in the divisional round. Warren Moon would leave for Minnesota in the 94 offseason. And this would be the last time that the Houston Oilers would have a winning season playoff appearance while in Houston. The next one was the Tennessee Titans in '99. Ironically, the year that the Titans went to the Super Bowl thanks to the Music City Miracle. Anyway, the season had a lot of troubles. Yes, Houston was 1-4 to start the year, but 11 straight wins was supposed to help them. Unfortunately, though, things were bad. One bizarre sideline was Houston against the New England Patriots in October. Offensive tackle David Williams' wife ended labor, and Williams stayed with his wife and couldn't catch the game. He was fined over $111,000 by the Oilers for missing the game and criticized by owner Bud Evans for misplacing his priorities. Unfortunately, though, many talk shows across the U.S. spit on Houston, and Bud Evans had to apologize and all that. There were some gay teammates. Well, in 2013, former teammates on the '93 team said that 2 key players were generally known to be gay and were accepted by the team. Of course, they didn't know and all that. Well, it wasn't Bubba McDowell or Lamont Laifon. The names were not chosen and all that. Unfortunately, though, this wasn't the end of it. Houston in December 1993 got hit hard as Jeff Alm, reserve defensive tackle, former Notre Dame Irish player, was playing 2 games and then he was rehabbing a broken leg. At 2:30 a.m., him and his best friend were in an accident that saw Alm lose control of his Cadillac, ejecting Lynch out through the windshield of the car, where he fell several stories through the asphalt below, killing him instantly. Both Alm and Lynch were intoxicated, and Lynch was not wearing a seatbelt. After seeing his friend was dead, Alm called 911 and then committed suicide and all of that, which was terrible and all that. Alm would have been in deep trouble because, drinking and driving. But that wasn't the end of it. The last game of the season saw the Oilers take on the New York Jets. The Oilers knew they were the 2 seed and would host a divisional round game, meaning that they didn't have to go to the wildcard round. Unfortunately, Buddy Ryan, the defensive coordinator for the Oilers, and offensive coordinator Kevin Gilbride did not get along because Buddy Ryan did not like Gilbride's chuck and duck offense. Well, he called it the chuck and duck, but it was the run and shoot offense and all that. At the end of the first half, when the Oilers were hosting the Jets on ESPN, Gilbride called a pass play, and then when Cody Carlson fumbled, Buddy Ryan started yelling at Gilbride, who walked towards Ryan, yelling back. Ryan would then throw a punch at Gilbride. And of course, players had to separate them and all that. Gilbride wanted to go after Buddy Ryan, but the team said not to because they were winning and all that. The worst part was that Buddy Ryan would actually accept a job with the Cardinals to be their new head coach. So in the offseason, Brad Hawkins was a good offensive tackle from the University of Illinois. They drafted in the first round. Second round was Michael Barrow, a good linebacker from the University of Miami. And Blaine Bishop, an unknown 8th-rounder safety from Ball State, was picked by the Oilers. The GM, of course, was Mike Holovac. Jack Pardee, the head coach who died a while ago. Cody Carlson backed up Warren Moon with Texas A&M icon Bucky Richardson, the third quarterback. Good old Warren Moon, CFLer, baby. Spencer Tillman was a good running back alongside Gary Brown and Lorenzo White. Wide receivers, some of the best: Curtis Duncan, Ernest Gibbons, Haywood Jeffries, and Gary Wellman, alongside John Henry Mills, the tight end. Offensive line: Brad Hopkins, Doug Dawson, Bruce Matthews, Mike Munchak, and Stan Thomas, among others, and David Williams, of course. Defensive linemen: Ray Childress, William Fuller, Sean Jones. Linebackers of note: Michael Barrow, who would make his way with the Giants years later. Joe Bowden, Lamar Lathan, Wilbur Marshall. Yes, that Wilbur Marshall, icon for the Bears. Eddie Robinson and Al Smith. Defensive backs: Blaine Bishop with Keith Stishman, Bill McDowell, Bull Orlando. Alder Greco, your kicker. Craig Montgomery, your punter. Webster Slaughter was on the IR, which was bad because Slaughter was a good wide receiver. And also Marcus Robertson, a safety, was on the IR. So they lost 4 of their first 5 games. They beat Kansas City, but lost in New Orleans, lost in San Diego, and lost at home to the Rams, and then lost to Buffalo. However, after that big win over the Patriots, of course, when Babygate happened, they went on a roll. They beat the Bengals, Seahawks, Bengals, Browns, Steelers, Falcons, Browns, Steelers, Niners, Jets. One other thing. Yeah, they beat the Niners on Christmas Day, which was shocking. So it's like, what the heck was going on? And all that. But they still won the game 24-0. So the Oilers were the 2 seed. Pittsburgh sneaked in as the 6 seed. After Kansas City beat Pittsburgh in overtime, they would face Houston as the Bills would face, I'd like to say, the Raiders. I think it was the Raiders who had to go to Buffalo. That's right. So Houston faced Kansas City in front of over 64,000, the largest Astrodome football crowd ever. Dick Enberg and Bob Trumpy were doing the game. They were icons. The Oilers were up 10-0 thanks to Doug Greco's field goal and Gary Brown's 2-yard run. The Chiefs would keep back as Joe Montana threw a key pass to Keith Cash for a touchdown. But Keith Cash did something unbelievable. He found a banner of Buddy Ryan in the end zone and decided to throw the football against the pitcher of Buddy Ryan. It was like one of the most iconic moments around. Houston did kick a field goal to make it 13-7, but a pair of Kansas City touchdowns made it 21-13 as Montana passed to J.J. Brennan, Willie Davis, Moon Gibbons for a touchdown, but Marcus Allen, remember him? 21-yard touchdown. Chiefs win 28-20. Montana beats Moon. Yeah, Joe Montana doing his job and all that. Of course, the 2-point conversion could not happen for Houston. If they scored a touchdown, they would have had to go for the extra point. So, yeah, it was just one of the most iconic moments was Keith Cash doing that and all that. Yeah. And list of NFL teams affected by internal conflict. I should do some type of video on that. But anyway, yeah, it was that January 16th game in Houston was the last time the Oilers would play a playoff game while playing in Houston. And would not see another playoff game in the city till 2012 when they hosted a wildcard game. So, man, that was amazing. So, yeah, the next time the Oilers/Titans would make the Super Bowl playoffs was 1999 when they played that AFC wildcard game against Buffalo. The Oilers Titans franchise has received 5 division titles: 2000, 2002, 2008, 2020, and 2021. And in fact, 3 of those 5 times they were the AFC's #1 seed and fell. Anyway, so anyway, that was just unbelievable. Worst off, Houston was starting to lose money. Of course, the salary cap ruined it. Bud Adams had to get rid of some players. He couldn't get a new financing deal on a new stadium in Houston. He didn't like the Astrodome and all that. So he practically tried to get the team to get a new stadium in Houston. No such luck. And Houston management didn't like him. The city of Houston didn't think he was going to do well. So he moved the team to Tennessee, where they had an NFL ready stadium in a few years. Worst of all, a Houston Save the Oilers rally only had like 50 people. So that was terrible. Nevertheless, let's take a look and see. What if the 93 Oilers did beat Kansas City, did screw Montana over, and go to Buffalo? Let's find out. Neither. Okay, so why would I want to say hey there, how there, ho there? This is the second. This is the butt end of the video. So Houston would play Buffalo. Both were 12-4. Buffalo was the 1 seed because they hosted the AFC title game, and I know damn well they were #1 because the Raiders were #4. So Houston would head to Buffalo and try to avoid another bad loss in Rich Stadium. So let's see what happens this time. Come on. Okay, so Houston started the ball first, had to punt, lots of punts and all that. No score in the first quarter. Second quarter sees Steve Christie, the man from Oakville, put it right through the uprights. A 36-yard field goal, 11 plays, 64 yards, 7 minutes. And then another field goal on the next possession. 41-yard field goal. That's good, 6-0. And then Christie from 40 yards to make it 9-0. Unfortunately for Houston, they couldn't get anything going. The third quarter sees Buffalo start it, and then they punt. But Houston gets a 4-play, 66-yard drive as Lorenzo White goes for 37 yards touchdown thanks to a defensive holding call earlier. They win 7 points, so it's 9-7. And then El DeGreco on the next possession kicks a 30-yard field goal down the pikey poo. What can you do? So make it 10-9. And then Buffalo tries, but Del Greco, 14 plays, 75 yards to take 8 minutes off the clock. That's huge. To make it 13-9. Buffalo has a chance. Especially good when there was a face mask 15 yards. So they're at Buffalo at their own 46. Unfortunately, Buffalo and Houston both had penalties, and then Kelly gets picked up by Bubba McDowell, who was looking deep down, and Bubba made the play. At the 2-minute mark, Kelly went for 4th and 10 at the 44 and failed. And so Houston wins 13-9. So Houston does win, get revenge. Buffalo was up 9-0 after one half. Efficiency 6 for 13 for Houston. Buffalo 3 for 14. 143-96 Houston running the ball. Passing 148-134. Lorenzo White 112 and a touchdown. Doing his job, even though it was the backup in a sense. Receiving all that. Moon 14 for 20, 161. Kelly 10 for 21, 134, and a pick to Bubba McDowell. DeGreco made two 30-yarders. Christie 36, 41, 40. But Houston would have had to go to Dallas. So Dallas. Yeah, how about those Cowboys? So yeah, the 93 Cowboys would have had to face them. And it was the Georgia Dome. I remember that. Oh, come on. Where's your stadium? Said Mercedes-Benz Superdome. The Georgia Dome. So anyway, at the Georgia Dome, where Super Bowl 28 was in real life, let's see if Houston can take care of their Texas rivals. The answer is maybe. So anyway, the first quarter, Dallas had the ball first and had to punt. A couple of punts and a touchdown run by Emmitt Smith. Great job. 7 plays, 42 yards, and a touchdown. 7-0 for those pesky Cowboys. Worst of all, Moon had a soft pass to Gary Brown, but lost the ball and Dallas recovered it. In the second quarter, Del Greco kicked the field goal to make it 7-3. Unfortunately, Emmitt Smith fumbles the ball. Houston gets the ball at the 37, and Spencer Tillman gets a touchdown to make it 10-7. Eddie Murray from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canadian, with a 33-yard field goal down the pikey poo, 10-10. Houston, thanks to a couple of encroachment calls by Dallas, had some yards, and Ernest Gibbons gets a touchdown, 17-10 for Houston. Dallas has to punt, Houston has to punt. 17-10 Houston at the half. Third quarter, Houston gets the ball first and kicks the field goal. Doug Grackle makes it 20-10. And then Dallas gets to play 6 plays, 37 yards. Tyrell Williams gets a touchdown to make it 20-17. Fourth quarter, Murray kicks one down the pike at 28-yarder, tie the game at 20. Then Doug Grackle kicks a field goal, a 37-yarder, 7 plays, 53 yards. Well, Houston had a penalty for holding, and Dallas declined it. They should have kept it because then Houston would have been penalized for 5 yards. Nevertheless, Aikman was looking at a 2-minute warning. At the 43-yard line, Aikman tries to throw for Emmitt Smith but gets tackled. Moon takes a couple knees, and the Houston Oilers win the game 23-20. So the 93 Oilers would have broken that NFC winning streak and somehow win the Super Bowl on Doug Greco's field goal and take down Dallas once and for all, as it seemed. Houston 4 for 10 on efficiency. Dallas 8 for 17. I said Houston, right? Running yards, Houston 203, 122. Passing yards 158, 96. Gary Brown 118 yards this time. Lorenzo White 64. Receiving okay. Smith 67 yards. Passing Moon 10 for 16, 169 and a touchdown. Aikman 15 for 21, 127 and a touchdown. A lot of sacks. So Gracko made from 28, 39, 37. Murray from 32 and 28. But you know what? CFL for life, bitches. Warren Moon would have had a Super Bowl. Houston would have stayed in tight, and who knows? Maybe the Houston Oilers would have stayed in Houston and screwed Tennessee over, and maybe put Nashville into the expansion thing that Houston got in 2002. Who knows? Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.